The millionaire's polished shoes crunched against the gravel as he approached his car. A raspy voice stopped him cold. "Sir, I can make your daughter walk again." He turned, slowly, disbelieving, toward the sound. There, in rags and dirt, stood a black beggar boy with eyes like fire. For a moment, time held its breath. They said she would never walk again. Doctors in white coats had declared it with grave faces and hollow sympathy. The millionaire sat beside his daughter's wheelchair every evening, his fortune powerless against her still, lifeless legs. Then came the boy. Barefoot, cloaked in tattered clothes, and covered in the dust of the streets, he appeared at the mansion gates like a ghost with purpose. No one knew his name. He said nothing at first, just stared through the iron bars until the guards brought him before the master of the house. "Sir," he whispered, "I can make your daughter walk again." The words sounded absurd, even offensive. But there was something in the boy's voice unshaken, rooted deep like an ancient promise. Out of desperation, or perhaps some forgotten faith, the millionaire allowed him inside. The boy knelt before the girl. He didn't use medicine or machines. He only placed his small, calloused hands on her feet. He closed his eyes, murmuring something soft. Words older than language itself. A warmth spread from her toes to her knees. She gasped. She moved. Tears flooded the room before the miracle could be questioned. The girl stood, wobbly, uncertain, then took a step. Then another. The boy didn't wait for applause or thanks. He turned and walked away, vanishing down the long marble hall. No one ever saw him again. But sometimes, when the wind howls through the trees just right, the girl, now a woman, swears she hears his voice, soft and sure. "I told you she'd walk again." Dust hung in the air like a memory that refused to settle. The village, long forgotten by maps and mercy, had grown used to silence, especially near the edge, where the crippled girl lived with her grieving father. Her name was Amara. Once a dancer, now a shadow. Disease had stolen the song from her legs, and with it, the light from her eyes. Then one afternoon, a whisper rode in on the wind. He came barefoot, skin like burnt earth, eyes lit with something beyond his years. The beggar boy said little, but knelt beside Amara in the yard where the dust swirled like spirits. "She can dance again," he said simply, pressing his hands into the ground. The villagers laughed. Her father bristled. But Amara looked at him, not with hope, but with curiosity, as if part of her remembered something ancient and forgotten. The boy closed his eyes and began to hum. No language, no rhythm, just a soft vibration, like the earth breathing through him. Dust rose, danced in slow spirals around her feet. The ground pulsed gently beneath her. Then, warmth. Amara's toes twitched. Her breath caught. A whisper in the dust, "Move." And she did. First a flinch, then a bend, then a step so small it could have been mistaken for wind. But it was hers. And the next one was stronger. The beggar boy stood quietly, his work done, and turned to leave. "Who are you?" her father called out, voice cracking. The boy glanced back with a faint smile. "No one. Just someone who listens when the dust speaks." And with that, he disappeared down the dry path, leaving behind only footprints and a girl spinning barefoot in the sun. He stood at the hospital window, unmoving. Outside, snow fell gently, blanketing the world in silence, an unbearable contrast to the storm inside him. His daughter lay behind him, hooked to machines that beeped steadily, mocking the rhythm of a life no longer whole. The accident had taken her legs, and nearly taken his soul. He was a man of wealth, of influence. Yet here, none of it mattered. Money couldn't make her walk. Power couldn't bring back her laughter. He hadn't cried. Not once. Instead, his eyes had turned to stone cold, wide, and fixed somewhere beyond the window. As if by staring long enough, he could unmake the past. Then came a knock. Barely audible. He turned. A boy, no older than 10, stood at the door. Ragged clothes. Skin smudged with soot. Eyes too wise for his age. "Sir," the boy said quietly, "I can help her walk again." The father's jaw clenched. Another cruel joke? Another charlatan preying on grief? But something in the boy's voice made him pause. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't salesmanship. It was certainty. The boy approached the girl and touched her feet with reverence, whispering words the father didn't recognize. A warmth filled the room, unseen, but undeniable. Then, movement. A twitch. A tremble. The girl opened her eyes. Daddy! I can feel my legs. He dropped to his knees, gaze shattered into tears. She stood. The frozen father wept not from pain, but from a joy so sharp it hurt. He turned to thank the boy. But the doorway was empty. Only melting snow on the floor remained, footprints, slowly vanishing. Crowds moved past him every day, heads high, eyes forward, never seeing the boy in rags who sat by the fountain with an empty tin and a silent prayer. He never asked for much. Just watched. Waited. Then came the man. He wore a suit worth more than the boy would see in 10 lifetimes. His face was hard, carved by power and years of chasing everything money could buy except peace. In his arms, he carried a girl, pale and limp, her legs thin from months of stillness. The boy rose. Sir, he said, his voice quiet but clear, I can help her. The man scoffed. Another street trick. Another delusion. But something in the boy's eyes, unflinching, deep, stilled him. I don't need your money, the boy added. Only her feet. Reluctantly, the man laid the girl down. The boy knelt, placing his cracked hands on her ankles. He closed his eyes. Whispered something too soft to hear. Then it happened. A jolt. A breath. Her toes curled. The girl blinked, confused, and slowly pushed herself up. I can feel them, she whispered. Daddy! I can move them. The man dropped to his knees, overwhelmed. His fortress of pride cracked open in an instant. He looked at the boy, truly saw him, for the first time. Who are you? The boy only smiled. Just someone who gives what I've been given. Before the man could reply, the boy disappeared into the crowd, swallowed by the city that never noticed him. But the touch remained. Not just in her legs. In the man's heart, where for the first time in years something had changed. And this time, it wasn't money that made it happen. He was just a beggar to most, barefoot, cloaked in dust, with eyes like chipped glass and a voice rarely heard. The city passed him by daily, tossing coins without contact, without care. But one morning, he stood outside the cathedral gates, not with a plea for food, but a whisper for heaven. Please, he murmured, eyes lifted to the stone spires, hear me, not for me, but for her. Inside, a mother knelt alone before the altar. Her daughter lay in a coma, 3 weeks gone, no sign of return. Doctors had offered statistics, not hope. Priests had offered comfort, not change. That day, the beggar entered the cathedral, slowly, reverently. Guards moved to stop him, but the priest held up a hand. Let him through. He walked the aisle like it was sacred ground, past stained glass saints who watched in silence. He stopped beside the woman, knelt, and placed a trembling hand on hers. I've been where you are, he said softly. And I've seen what happens when angels hear the right prayer. She wept, not because she believed, but because she had nothing left to lose. That night, her daughter opened her eyes. No machines could explain it. No theology could frame it. But something had listened. By morning, the beggar was gone. No name. No trail. Just the echo of his words. Later, the priest would say, he never begged for food. He begged for mercy. And the woman, now whole again, would always believe. When beggars speak, angels don't just listen, they answer. Rain fell softly on the temple steps where he sat every day, barefoot, thin, forgotten by the world. They called him a beggar, but he never asked for coins. He only watched the people come and go, as if waiting for someone. Then one morning, she came. A young girl, carried in her father's arms. Her legs dangled lifeless, folded like paper. Her eyes held questions too heavy for her age. The beggar rose as they passed. Wait, he said gently, I made a promise. The father scowled. To who? To the wind, to the sky, to the soul of a child like hers, the beggar said. That if I ever saw her again, I'd help her walk. The man hesitated. This was madness. But his daughter looked at the beggar not with fear, but with a strange, blooming trust. Let him try, she whispered. He placed her down gently on the stone, trembling with hope. The beggar knelt and placed his hands on her feet, calloused fingers tracing the curves of still limbs. I have nothing to give, he said, but the promise I made, and the faith that kept me alive. He closed his eyes. No chance, no magic. Just silence. Then, movement. Her toes curled. Her knees bent. She gasped. The father dropped to the ground, weeping. She stood, shaky, unsure, but she stood. The beggar stepped back, a smile brushing his lips. A promise kept, he whispered. Who are you? The father cried out. But the beggar had already turned into the rain, his figure fading with the mist. Some say he still walks the roads, barefoot and watching. Not begging for alms, only for the chance to keep another promise.